I'm talking about keyboard shortcuts that you will want to press to use After Effects faster and more practically. Here are the most used shortcuts in the professional world. First of all, I want to talk about I and O keys on the keyboard. When you press I key, the timeline should go to the beginning, which is the word in. When you press O, it should go to the end, which is the word out. It is also possible to intervene on the render area you see on the top. For this, for example, when the timeline is here, I press the letter B. This is the start line. If I press the letter N next to the letter B, the end line and the end of the render area is here. Above the layers, when you press the arrows on the left side and under transform, you will see 5 properties. These are the places to animate your object, to give it movement. Each one of them has shortcuts. Let's close this one. The shortcut for anchor point is A. It immediately goes to the property where anchor point is. The letter P is position. You can think of the initials. S is scale, which is used to size the object. R is rotation, that is to rotate the object. And finally, opacity with the initial letter T is used for transparency value. Now, to keyframe these properties, we need to press these letters using Shift and Alt keys together. For example, to keyframe the scale value, I press Shift Alt S. If I go forward in the same way and press Shift Alt S again, it creates a second keyframe. Of course, it doesn't do this to the one below. I press Alt Shift S to make it do it to the one below. In the same way, when you press Alt Shift P for position, when you press R for rotation, when you press T for transparency value, and when you press Alt Shift with the letter A, it gives anchor point keyframes. Now I turn off the triangles here again. When layers with keyframes are selected and you press U on the keyboard, only the keyframed properties of the selected layer are visible. For example, here I press the letter U and only the scale value is activated because we just keyframed only the scale value. When I press U again, it turns it off again. I select the bottom layer and press U. As you can see, since these are all the keyframes we have just given, it will show them all at the same time. If you have used an effect on the layer and you want to display only the effect, I press the letter E while the layer is selected. When I press the letter E, only the given effects will appear. If you have given a mask, I cancel it by pressing the letter E again. If you have given a mask to an object, you can make the mask appear by pressing the letter M, and the letter F, which is only used for the mask value, is used to display the feather value of the mask. In this way, it is possible to make changes to the feather. If you intend to view and edit some things on the monitor, but the squares and selection areas you see on the image bother you, you can make them disappear by pressing Ctrl-Shift-E and make them visible by pressing the same keys again. When you press Ctrl- and Ctrl+ on the screen, the selected object, the active object, shrinks and grows. For example, right now I'm pressing Ctrl-, now I'm pressing Ctrl+. If you press minus and plus without pressing Ctrl, you will rotate the objects. If you press Alt on the keyboard and move the wheel on your mouse back and forth, that means zoom in and zoom out. You may need to use half instead of full when you are previewing. There is a shortcut for that too. If you want to make the quality here full, we use Ctrl-J. If you want to make it half, we use Ctrl-Shift-J. Thus, you can make quick transitions on the keyboard without using the mouse. In the same way, when you play with the wheel by pressing Alt on the timeline, you can zoom in and zoom out at the point where your mouse cursor is. If you want to move left and right when you zoom in, you need to press Shift and move the wheel of your mouse. When you move the wheel downwards, the timeline will move to the right, and when you move it upwards, it will move to the left. If you want to split the selected object in half and make it into 2 layers, we use Ctrl-Shift-D. It turns a single layer into 2 layers and cuts it where the timeline is. If you are working with music and you are working with an effect in the background and you want to see the sound waves of the music, of these sound files, click on the music. You want to see the sound wave. So, select the music and press the letter L twice on the keyboard. Then, these sound waves will appear. If you press it again, they will be hidden. Press Ctrl-K to go into your composition settings. This will bring you to composition settings, where you can make any adjustments you want. If I want to shortcut the process of combining multiple layers into a single layer and making it into a separate composition, which in Photoshop is a smart object and in Premiere is a nest, which here means pre-compose, I press Ctrl-Shift-C after selecting the layers. This combination opens the pre-compose window. When I enter a new name and click OK, this becomes a single layer. When I go into it, I can see the layers I merged separately. To create a new solid layer, I use Ctrl-Y, the window for creating a new solid layer. Here I set the color of the solid layer, and when I click OK, it is automatically created here. If you need to output the animation you made, you need to render it if you want to save it to your computer in MP4 or other formats. For this, I use the Ctrl-M combination, which takes me to the render window. If you prefer the render in Media Encoder, or if you have more than one scene and you want to queue them, you can use Ctrl-Alt-M. This will render the current scene. Thus, the render of the existing scene comes in front of you to be rendered through Media Encoder. These are the shortcuts I want to talk about in After Effects. If there are any shortcuts that I don't know or missed, please write down in the comments field. That's all for this video. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.